Yo, what's going on, everybody? Welcome in the Vikings Now by Chat Sports. My name is Patrick Siepman. We got some breaking news for you guys. The Minnesota Vikings are working out Carson Wentz today. A bit of a shocker, did not have this one coming, but clearly after the last preseason game where Brett Rypien looked absolutely terrible and with Sam Howell not playing in that game, the Vikings clearly think they need that another quarterback to this room. So we'll dive into that to start off today's show. And then I also do want to talk about the latest around an Adam Thielen trade. Josina Anderson and Diana Rossini put reports out there that are suggesting that something will probably happen eventually, but we shouldn't expect it really anytime soon. And then I do want to give you guys some thoughts on the secondary, because with Dwight McGlothern, Zamiah Vaughn, and Mekhi Blackman not playing good football this entire preseason, obviously no wide receiver is a need, but I could also maybe see Kwesi picking up the phone and trying to get some more help in that secondary at the cornerback position. But before we do so, make sure you guys are subscribed. The regular season is here. I cannot wait. Even though I am a football sicko and I love watching all the football I can, I was getting pretty sick and tired of the preseason, especially in the second half when the Vikings had Josh Metellus calling plays defensively, showing you guys how serious they take it there. But I can't wait for the regular season. And if you guys are fired up as well and don't want to miss a thing around your Minnesota Vikings, hit that subscribe button today. And once you guys are sub, just give me a skull in the comments section. So let's dive into Wentz here. Last year, he did spend his time with the Kansas City Chiefs. In 2023, he was with the Los Angeles Rams. And in 2022, he was with the Commanders. All of these were in backup roles. He did play in 8 games with the Commanders, but again, not a full-time starter there. But the last time he was a full-time starter was in 2021 with the Indianapolis Colts. The raw numbers look pretty good. 27 touchdowns, 7 interceptions, threw for 3,600 yards, had a completion percentage of 62.4. But, there's obviously a reason after that season Indianapolis let him go. But, for his role with the Vikings, obviously this would just be the backup quarterback position. Now, would it be automatically QB2, or would it maybe be him and Max Brosmer? They battled out throughout practice, but I'm assuming that the Vikings would have told Carson Wentz, like, hey, if you are going to sign here, you would be the quarterback too. And honestly, for probably right reason, because even though Max Brosmer has looked awesome in the preseason, and I understand, like, he is exceeded our expectations of what we thought he was going to be coming out of Minnesota. And I still think Brosmer would have a spot on the 53-man roster, even if Wentz gets signed. Honestly, I think this would be bad news for Howell, because Sam Howell didn't play in the preseason week 3. Now, some people would read that as, oh, he is for sure got a spot on the roster, but I just find that hard to believe considering how terrible he was in week 2 and throughout training camp. This was a guy where we would get reports every single day, like, oh, the defense is giving it to Howell, throwing multiple interceptions. And then in the preseason, like, it was just more of what we were hearing, especially in that second game against the New England Patriots, threw one of the worst interceptions I've ever seen. He was trying to throw the ball out of bounds, but he didn't have the arm strength to get it out of bounds, and it ended up being just an awful interception. So I think the Vikings do bring Carson Wentz in. I'm guessing it would mean Sam Howell and Brett Rypien both get cut, and they would keep Max Brosmer as the third quarterback. Maybe they bring back Rypien or Howell to be on the practice squad, Rypien or Howell. But I would assume maybe Howell gets picked up if he does hit waivers. Rypien definitely will not. Rypien looked absolutely terrible yesterday, and Kevin O'Connell, like, we saw his facial expressions on the sideline. Rypien was just sailing passes over and over and over again, and like Kevin O'Connell's probably thinking to himself, like, hey, I got these receivers who are battling to make the 53-man roster, and this damn quarterback can't even get them the football. Like, it was very frustrating watching that second half. But then again, Vikings are just playing third and fourth stringers. KOC gets that from Sean McVay, but he was still frustrated, and I would be too. I just don't understand with this Carson Wentz thing. The one, I guess, gripe I have with it, even though I think it would be a solid move if the Vikings do end up bringing him in, why didn't we do this 3 weeks ago? Unless maybe they were just way higher on Sam Howell than we thought. But, I mean, Howell looked very bad very quickly. Like, you could see it immediately. Like, hey, this is not an NFL quarterback. This guy is, he just looked uncomfortable. He was sailing passes. He's got no mobility whatsoever. So maybe Wentz was just waiting on different options. And, Carson Wentz would have some interest to come here. You get to be the next member of the KOC rehab school. And then also he grew up a Vikings fan. So I'll ask you guys this. Pick a quarterback. If Wentz does sign, who are you rolling with for quarterback 2? Would it be Max Brosmer? Would it be Carson Wentz? Again, I'm assuming Sam Howell would be the casualty if Wentz gets signed, but maybe I'm wrong. Maybe the Vikings don't care what happened the preseason. They'll just hope that Brosmer maybe can land on the practice squad somehow. But you guys let me know. I think it will be between Carson Wentz and Brosmer if he does end up signing. So you guys let me know who would you rather have in the comments section. So, all right, let's close out today's show. Just want to talk about Adam Thielen and the secondary here. So, yesterday morning, Adam Schefter put out a tweet saying that the Vikings are contacting the Carolina Panthers for Adam Thielen. And then pretty Ricky, if you guys don't know, the People's Insider on Twitter, he said this deal is done and Adam Thielen will be a Minnesota Viking. And a lot of people have been speculating this for a long time, so it was gaining a lot of steam. However, later on in the day, Josina Anderson and Minnesota's very favorite reporter out there, Diana Rossini, put out reports saying that nothing is expected to happen soon, but they both could see a deal pretty much getting done down the line. And I actually kind of agree with that because I keep getting back to this. Why would the Panthers just give up Adam Thielen? Assuming the Vikings aren't going to give up anything more than a 5th-round pick, and I think that's the max it would go. I am sure the Vikings are offering those 2 6th-round picks they got from the Jets for Adam Thielen right now. I think, again, max it would get up to is a 5th-round pick. So, and if you're Carolina, why would you want to budge? Like, you probably almost have some – and they could be false sense of hope, but they're probably thinking they could compete in the NFC South this season. Bryce Young takes a step. They got good weapons. They paid big money to their offensive guards. They're hoping their defense could just be middle of the pack, and their offense is a pretty solid unit. They're probably thinking they could maybe win 9-10 games in that division. So why would they just want to give up on Adam Thielen? Also considering, yes, they drafted Ted McMillan. Yes, they drafted Xavier Legette. They really like that Coker guy. But those are also a rookie and 2 second-year wide receivers. I think they like that veteran experience that Thielen brings to that room. So I thought maybe it was going to happen this weekend just because also Adam Thielen's agent giving Thielen a birthday shout-out said big things are happening this weekend. Adam Thielen's wife posts on Instagram, big news coming. Maybe they got insight that the Vikes are really pushing hard to get this deal done, but I could see Carolina kind of playing hardball here and say, like, yeah, we're not giving up Thielen unless we get a 4th-round pick out of you guys. And also knowing the money ball mindset that Kwesi has, I really doubt he would want to give up a 4th-round pick for a 35-year-old receiver in Adam Thielen, who also, by week 4, he would just be the wide receiver 3, but I'm sure also the Vikings feel comfortable. It's Jalen Naylor still being the wide receiver 3 once he gets back dealing with this hand injury. So I just can't see the Vikings giving up a 4th. I'm sure they're offering 6th, 7th-round picks right now. So this may just take a little longer than we, all assume to get done. But if I still had to put a percentage on it, 70% chance week 1 Thielen's rolling up with Justin Jefferson to Soldier Field. But let's close out today's show talking about the secondary because this is a big topic of conversation going on right now. Do the Vikings need to make a move at the cornerback position? Zamiah Vaughn, Dwight McGlothern, 2 UDFAs who – are still probably going to make the roster, looked pretty poor yesterday. And especially Mekhi Blackman as well. I mean, coming off that torn ACL, thought he was going to take that jump. But point being here, the Vikings are an injury away in that cornerback position for almost needing to go trade for a corner. Because, one, you're already banking on Byron Murphy, who really has just had one really good year in his career, him maintaining his production from last year. You're also banking on a guy like Isaiah Rodgers, who has just kind of been a rotational corner, has played some good football, but, can you up, your snap count and still maintain the production? That's a huge question mark for Isaiah Rodgers. And then you're banking on Jeff Okudah being your 3rd corner. Now, obviously the Vikings, most of the time, they're just running 2 corners out there. They flood the field with safeties and linebackers. So, but you're still going to have a lot of times where Okudah's out there, and that's just a lot to ask. And then if one of those guys gets hurt, or God forbid Byron Murphy gets hurt, what are we talking about this cornerback room as possibly the worst one in the National Football League? So I could see the Vikings making a move for a corner. No idea who is out there that could be on the trade block, but just don't be shocked if this is a very aggressive next week, or at least just once roster cutdown day comes and goes on Tuesday, the Vikings probably get active on the waiver wire, but news of the day. Carson Wentz working out with the Minnesota Vikings. I think the Thielen trade is going to take a little longer, and then also don't be shocked if they make a move for a secondary player, mainly a corner, because just did not feel good after watching yesterday's game. So we'll see you guys next time. Appreciate everybody taking time out of their day to watch today's show. As always, Skol Vikes.